They told us it was a logistics company, a private contractor for government surplus. We signed NDAs thicker than phone books, promising silence in exchange for a paycheck that cleared every other Friday. I wasn't a scientist. I wasn't a soldier. I was a janitor, level 3 clearance, mostly because I knew how to mop up biohazards without asking questions. But you don't work in the dark for 10 years without seeing what hides in the corners. This isn't a creepypasta. This is my resignation letter, written from a safe house 300 miles from the nearest site. You need to understand the scale of it before I tell you about item 173. It wasn't just one monster. It was an ecosystem of nightmares, cataloged, numbered, and contained by people who stopped believing in mercy long ago. The Foundation operates on 3 pillars: secure, contain, protect. To the public, those are just words on a website that doesn't officially exist. To us, they were the rhythm of our lives. Secure the anomaly, contain the breach, protect humanity from the truth. I worked in Sector 4, the biological wing. The air always smelled of ozone and antiseptic, with an underlying copper tang of blood that never quite washed out. My shift started at 0600 hours. The lights hummed to life, a harsh white glare that exposed every crack in the pavement. We didn't talk about what we saw. Unwritten rule. You see something strange, you file a report, you sign the incident log, and you go home. But sometimes, the logs don't tell the whole story. Sometimes, the things in the cells look back at you with eyes that know your name. Let me tell you about the day the power failed. It wasn't a storm. It wasn't a mechanical failure. It was silence. The hum of the containment fields died. The magnetic locks disengaged with a heavy thud that echoed through the entire wing. For 10 seconds, there was absolute darkness. Then, the emergency red lights kicked in, bathing the corridors in the color of fresh blood. Protocol dictated we lock ourselves in the break room. But I had left my keys in the cleaning closet near cell 19. I don't know why I went back. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was stupidity. As I ran down the hall, the air grew cold. Not just cool, but freezing. The kind of cold that burns your lungs. I heard breathing, not human breathing. Something wet, ragged, and close. I reached the closet, grabbed the keys, and turned around. That's when I saw it. Standing at the end of the hall, a figure, tall, emaciated, its skin pale and stretched tight over bone. It didn't move. It just watched. Rule number 1 of SCP containment: don't blink. I didn't know that rule then. I just knew that if I looked away, I died. My eyes burned. Tears streamed down my face, blurring my vision. The figure remained still, but I could feel its intent. It was hungry. It was angry. And it was waiting for me to make a mistake. I backed away slowly, keeping my eyes locked on its face. It had no features, just smooth, concrete-like skin. But I could feel its gaze. It was heavy, oppressive. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I reached the door to the break room, fumbled with the handle, and slipped inside. I slammed the door shut and locked it. Only then did I allow myself to breathe. The other janitors looked at me, their faces pale. They knew. They had heard the alarms. They knew what had escaped. We sat in silence for 4 hours until the power was restored. No one spoke. No one needed to. After that incident, I was transferred. Not promoted, transferred. They moved me to the archival department, basement level. No windows, just rows and rows of file cabinets containing the histories of things that should not exist. I spent my days digitizing old reports, handwritten notes from researchers who had long since died or been terminated. I read about SCP-096, the Shy Guy, a creature that would hunt you to the ends of the earth if you saw its face. I read about SCP-682, the hard-to-destroy reptile, a beast that hated all life and could regenerate from any injury. I read about SCP-999, the orange slime, a rare moment of joy in a sea of horror. But the files that kept me up at night were the human ones, the D-class personnel, expendable, criminals sentenced to death, given a choice, execution or service. Most chose service. Few survived. I saw their photos. Young men, old men, women, all gone, consumed by the very things we were paid to keep in boxes. One day, I found a file that wasn't supposed to be there. It was tucked behind a drawer in cabinet 402. SCP. The name was redacted. The contents were mostly blacked out, but there was a photograph. A child, a little girl, no older than 6, sitting in a white room. She was smiling, but her eyes were completely black. No whites, no irises, just void. The report mentioned mimetic hazards and cognitive restructuring. It said she could rewrite reality with a thought, that she had turned an entire research team into dolls. Porcelain dolls. I stared at that photo for a long time. I felt a pull, a desire to look closer, to understand. But then I remembered the janitor who had disappeared last month, the one who had asked too many questions. I closed the file. I put it back, and I never spoke of it, but I know it's still there, waiting for someone curious enough to open it. The psychological toll is something they don't warn you about. You start to see patterns where there are none. You hear voices in the static of the radio. You dream of the cells. I developed a twitch in my left eye. The doctor said it was stress. I knew it was fear. Fear that one day the containment would fail again. And next time, I wouldn't be fast enough. I started drinking. Not heavily, but enough to blur the edges. Enough to forget the faces of the D-class. But alcohol doesn't erase memory. It just delays it. One night, I woke up in a cold sweat. I had dreamed of the little girl. She was standing at the foot of my bed. She wasn't smiling anymore. She was crying, black tears, and she was whispering my name. I quit the next day. I didn't give notice. I just left. I drove until the gas ran out, and then I kept walking. I live in a small town now. No internet, no news, just books and silence. But I know they are out there. The Foundation. They are everywhere. They are in the government, in the military, in the shadows. They are keeping us safe. But at what cost? How many lives have been sacrificed to keep the world normal? How many monsters are lurking just beneath the surface, waiting for a moment of weakness? I don't know, and I don't want to know. But sometimes, when I walk down the street, I see a face that looks familiar. A face from a file. A face from a dream. And I wonder, did I really escape? Or am I just in a larger cell? One with no walls, but no exit either. The Foundation doesn't let go. It just waits and watches and contains.